We know there are deadly toxins being produced in a normal structure fire, room and content structure fire, due to the types of materials that we're encountering inside these homes and businesses. The things that the research has turned up is firefighters are having a significant increase in being exposed to toxins in which we believe are causing cancers. And now the cancers that they're getting is almost going to surpass the natural dangers that they have on fighting fires, which is heart attacks has always been the #1 killer of firefighters, and then secondly, traumatic incidents.
I think it started in 1950, and then around the 70s, 80s, you started to see a slow increase of rates of death that were linked to cancer, and then in the last, since 1990 on, it's just been a 1-to-1 ratio, if not even higher amounts of cancer deaths compared to other things.
And if we don't do something about it, you know, we're going to have a mass epidemic where this job is going to be, it's already extraordinarily dangerous. We're going to see things that we haven't seen before. Here's what we look like. You know, this was a 70s and an 80s thing. The more blood we had on our gear and our hands and our arms and our faces, that was a badge of courage right there. We know what's inside this blood, okay? We know that we have a lot of biohazards going on inside there. All of these hazards that are in blood, we know what's going on with the smoke and the carcinogens. It's proven scientific fact now that those carbon particles carry carcinogenic materials inside them, and they're being absorbed and inhaled by it. So why would we expose ourselves to something that we do know is going on? Why would we continue to do that? There are 2 ways that firefighters are being exposed to these carcinogens, and that's through inhalation and absorption. So if we can limit that, the exposures, the inhalation and the absorption, we're going to do ourselves some good, we're going to save your life. Now, I want you all to take very deep breaths. This is not a difficult concept. Essentially washing each other off after we get out of the structure fire. That's it. That simple concept will save your life. The same way when we touch a patient, and it could be a normal sickness, a fever, a cough, we're still in there washing our hands, washing our faces, and deconning after we get done with that patient. This is the same concept that we have to apply now. There's 21 members in Class 64, and they're the first recruit class for Palm Beach County Fire Rescue to receive this information. And they were actually able to implement the training and go hands-on with this process. They had a training burn that they were involved in, part of their checkoff process.
The fire on the hay and the wood itself, and as it's building, it's not vented at first, but when you introduce oxygen into the environment, then we see how rapidly the fire builds. Usually we let that smoke bank down, and all those particulates in the air become fuel themselves. So introducing the oxygen at that time, we see that everything becomes rapidly ignited, and the heat goes up tremendously.
They came out of the hot zone from their training burn. They were able to implement the procedures and wash each other down, rinse each other down. Very simple. We take a garden hose at low pressure, okay, just normal house pressure, standard domestic pressure, and we start rinsing ourselves down. And we do a systematic approach. Now the 2 places that you have to really key in on is the gloves, because the gloves are touching everything, and the boots themselves. From there, they report to the next stage, which is their doffing stage, where they take all of their gear off in a systematic approach, not cross-contaminating themselves, not making sure that they're keeping their hands away from their face so they're not inhaling or wiping any of the soot and soil onto their face and onto their skin. They're taking all of their gear off appropriately, and then they're further implementing a step in their process by wiping down. We have special decon wipes that we are using in this program to wipe the actual skin, the face, the hands, the fingers, the arms, all of the exposed areas of the firefighter. We're wiping them down, which is further cleaning them, which is keeping them safe. Once they're done with that particular stage of the process, they then report to a proper rehabilitation area where they're getting their vitals checked and they're able to rehab appropriately with fluids, any kind of foods, energy bars, things like that that they need. But the bottom line is, before they get to this rehab area, the bottom line is keeping this rehab area as clean as possible. All of these procedures are being done before they enter that rehab area. And hopefully what we're going to find is this is going to reduce that potential of becoming cross-contaminated with any of those carcinogens that we know that are embedded into the gear after they come out of a structure fire. It's a very quick process. You know, it's not meant to be a detailed process like you would find in a hazardous material type situation. It's a very quick, it's a gross decon, it's a systematic process. It should only take several minutes per person to actually get them washed down and rinsed down. So altogether, you're looking at probably 5 to 6 minutes realistically. You know, the big point here that we want to try to get across to firefighters is this is probably not going to knock off all of those toxins. There are going to be some toxins that are going to be left on your gear. They've already have the science to prove that your gear is going to continue to off-gas for quite some time after you get out of the fire. Even after you decon your gear is still going to continue to off-gas these toxins. So what this procedure is going to do is it's going to take those toxins and it's going to make them, a lot of it is going to stick to your gear. And that's going to keep those toxins from aerosolizing in the air. Once the scene is over, the firefighter is done, and they're heading back to the station to further emphasize and reduce those chances of those toxins being aerosolized, we're going to bag that gear up. We're going to take that gear, we're going to put it inside of a bag, we're going to close that bag, we're going to tape that bag, make sure that that bag is fully enclosed, and that's for the ride back to the firehouse. We know that the science is showing that this gear is off-gassing, so there's a good possibility that if these guys are putting the gear inside an enclosed cab on the way back to the firehouse, they have the potential to get exposed to these toxins. Now, once they get back to the firehouse, there's additional procedures that are going to have to be implemented to make sure that that gear is going to get cleaned of all of the toxins that might have been it might have been exposed to. So why would we expose ourselves to something that we do know is going on? Why would we continue to do that? Why don't we change the philosophy and change the mindset and get on with this game of making sure that we're protecting ourselves?
FACE team, firefighters attacking the cancer epidemic, has been around for the last 2 years here at Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, and basically it's just a group of us volunteering our time to help raise awareness and implement procedures to help lower the cancer risk among firefighters.
As the science is revealing exactly what is being encountered here, and we're looking at this epidemic and coming up with methods and technologies that are going to help our firefighters live long, healthy, productive lives. You know, throughout this whole process, we're talking about taking water and wetting our gear. And one of the things that firefighters have always wanted to avoid was the oversaturation or the overwetting of gear. One of the first things firefighters across the nation do once they get done fighting a fire is they're trying to dry out their gear as much as possible. The concept behind this is to make sure that we understand that we're only doing this for the outside shell of our gear. It's not meant for you to take off your coat and then spray the inside of your coat. The inside of your gear be wet anyway from perspiration? Yes. That's normal stuff, that's natural. What we don't want to do is dump a bunch of water down in the inside of the gear. That includes your pants as well. There are other methods and techniques that are out there that are going to be the ultimate answer to this. For instance, a second set of gear. Getting out of that first set of gear, having that first set of gear that we entered the IDLH professionally sent out as soon as we get out of the structure, sent out, cleaned appropriately, and then returned to be brought back in service. And while it's being cleaned, we would have a second set of gear to jump into, effectively keeping that fire company in service at all times. That's the ultimate.
There are going to be some naysayers. It's going to happen. The majority of the guys are probably going to be naysayers because we've never seen this before. All right, so like we talked about in fire behavior and Captain Pamplona's class, it's a new culture. We have to change the culture of the fire service, and you guys are going to do that.
Really, the mindset began to shift in the late 80s when we began encountering some of these deadly diseases, that we had to do a better job in deconning our emergency personnel. We have to wear gloves first of all and protect ourselves and put that barrier up there. We have to wear our eye protection so that we're not getting splashed in the eye. It's an unknown situation. We don't know what's going on with the patient or what that patient might have. We gotta have the same mindset in the fire service now when it comes to fighting structure fires. We have to do this every single solitary time if we're gonna change the mindset. If it's gonna be like washing our hands after a medical call. That's the concept that we want to get out there. That's how bad we need to have this done.